Welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm Roger Humphrey. In this episode, I'm pleased to welcome violinist Jennifer Leshnower from the Cassatt String Quartet. Please join us as we talk about the quartet's 40th season, teaching, and balancing contemporary and standard repertoire. Hey, before we begin, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's an easy way to support the channel and support the arts in general. Thanks. And we are welcoming to the show the wonderful violinist Jennifer Leshnower. Did I say your name right?
Precisely right.
Oh man, I could mispronounce Bob Smith. I mean, so thank you for that. You are second violinist in the Cassatt Quartet, String
Yes, I
Quartet,
am.
correct? And I have to say that I just absolutely love the quartet. And we'll kind of get to that in a minute, but I'd like to know a little bit more about you, if we can, and your involvement with the quartet. When did you join? When did you join the quartet?
1994.
Okay, so you've been with them a minute.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
and do you teach at all?
I teach, I coach chamber music. I work with amateur, adult
Oh
chamber
wow!
musicians.
Oh, full package.
Yes,
Where do you teach at, may I ask?
I teach privately and I teach in masterclass situations with the quartet. We just returned from Oberlin. We're talking with SUNY Purchase for the spring and Bennington and Bowdoin College. So all
Yeah,
over.
all over the place. I
But
am encouraged by the future, if you will, of chamber music. I think it seems to be alive and well. A lot of people don't know about it, but a lot of people do. So, and I think it goes. It's nice to know that you and folks like you are busy and staying busy. So
yeah, thank
that's
you.
very cool.
It
so,
is.
so you're in the Cassatt Quartet. The quartet has been together for, well, this is your
40.
40 years.
We are celebrating our 40th anniversary.
Wow.
We formed in 85 at the Juilliard School.
Okay. Okay. So everybody was, or everybody then at that time anyway, was Juilliard. Is that where you trained as well?
I trained at Rice University. I'm from Odessa, Texas originally,
Okay.
and then I got my master's at Peabody Conservatory.
Oh, okay. Sure. So, so yeah, all pretty high profile places. So that's great. And so, and you joined the choir, or the quartet. Is that kind of your personal favorite? Is working in a chamber setting, or do you get a chance to play solo as well?
I love playing in chamber music. In fact, before the Cassatt String Quartet, I was in a professional quartet right out of Peabody when I finished my master's degree. I wrongly thought, well, there's only jobs in orchestra, and geared up to start the whole audition process for an orchestra career. And I went home to start practicing. And when I went home to Midland, Odessa, the orchestra director said, Jennifer, there's three positions open for our professional string quartet. And would you get in touch with our cellist? She's looking to fill three positions. And I did, and I auditioned, and I was selected. And so suddenly I had a job primarily as a professional string quartet member. It was the Tuvanel String Quartet. And our job was to also sit principals, section leaders in the Midland Odessa Symphony. And so I had 3 years experience uh, getting my feet wet professionally in that arena. And after 3 years, uh, it wasn't a successful match. You know, as it's infamous that it's hard to get along in string quartets. That's not a secret. And that combo was like World War III. And we were told, guys, we love you, but we're not going to renew your contract. Good luck. God bless. And so suddenly I had to go out and figure it out again. And I called up my former teacher, Sylvia Rosenberg from Peabody. And I said, Miss Rosenberg, I definitely want to play in another professional string quartet. I love this ensemble, and but I definitely do not want to create something from scratch. That I knew. And she said, well, Jennifer, there's a group in New York called the Cassatt String Quartet, and they called me a few months ago, and they're looking for second violin. That's what I was in the Tuvanel Quartet. Give them my name and tell them I told you to call. So I called them up from Texas, and we set up a time to read. And they were reaching towards the end of their search, and so I flew up to New York, and we played 2 different days together and read um, standard repertoire, contemporary repertoire, and they said, we'd like to invite you to play a concert with us. It's in about 3 weeks. Can you linger? Well, I was unemployed. Yeah, sure, I can linger. I lingered. I slept on my cousin's couch on the Upper East Side, and we had a ball. And then they said, Jennifer, we were really enjoying playing with you. We have a tour all summer long for summer festivals. Are you available to come along and be part of it? Sure, I was delighted. Anyway, so we really had a lengthy, calm, thorough vetting beyond just playing together and rehearsing together. And then it became traveling together and, business discussions and etc. So that was 1994. And here we are today,
That's
2025.
that's wonderful. I know that uh, I'm a guitar guy, and so I came up with popular music until I was at 21 and started playing classical, and uh, and I've worked in and out of music stores most of my life, um, and and uh, and it was just a cliche that guys would come in and get all excited because they're in a new group, and 2 weeks later you'd see them, and yeah, the group is awesome, and we got this great drummer, and we're playing all over the place, and 3 weeks later, yeah, well, the bass player's a jerk, and, and you can just start to see it spiral, and 6 months after they started, they're unemployed and looking for another band to play, and it happens so often, but I think those kind of personnel issues, people don't realize. I mean, you're living pretty much elbow to elbow for a good part of your career. You better get along.
Yes. Yes, you have to get along, you have to compromise, you have to listen. And I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was one of the Guarneri Quartet members or if it was a Juilliard Quartet member that said infamously, being in a professional string quartet has all the downsides of a marriage with none of the benefits.
That's funny.
So true.
But I
No,
was
but I
I
love it. I mean, I passionately love it. I'm so grateful. I feel that I'm one of the luckiest folks to be able to have spent my life's work in chamber music with fabulous colleagues and be able to, um, collaborate and create and work with very interesting composers. I mean, it's just endless. Teach, inspire another generation. Um, I'm very lucky.
the quartet. I know you. I don't want to use the word specialize, but I know you kind of lean into doing contemporary and new music a lot. But you don't turn your back on the standard repertoire either. Matter of fact, I was listening to the Schubert Quintet just before we started.
Oh,
It's on YouTube. Love it.
what a piece.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
what a piece.
It really is. It's
Was that with Colin Carr, that one?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's just absolutely lovely. But also listening to you guys play "Playing for Our Lives" by Gerald Cohen,
Oh, yeah.
which is just an amazingly powerful piece. I mean, he's a very powerful composer,
Yeah.
and to listen to that. How is it to go from going to standard repertoire, which it's standard. I mean, a lot of people know it. How is your approach different than working on something new like Gerald's piece?
Well, the quartet has commissioned probably over 100 new works
Oh,
and more coming. in celebration of our 40th anniversary, will be Joan Tower's sixth string quartet.
Wow.
Beyond that is Victoria Bond's new piano quintet. And I believe we have something like 40 commercial CDs. The lion's share is devoted to contemporary music. And coming up are going to be three chamber works by Daniel S. Godfrey, to include a guitar quintet that you might be very interested in. We recorded it with Elliot Fisk.
Oh,
So
he's wonderful.
he's a wonderful artist. He's brilliant. And also on that CD will be a piano quintet with Ursula Oppens, also marvelous, and a cello quintet. So you mentioned Schubert. Not many folks after the Schubert cello quintet, many composers were really afraid or nervous to go near that because the bar was so darn high. But but Daniel Godfrey has a cello quintet that is going to be released soon. So we'll circle back when that actually comes out. So that's a long-winded prelude to answer your question, which is playing a piece of music is playing a piece of music, whether it's Schubert or Joan Tower. And you apply those same uh, basics of balance, of what is the composer's um, emotional language, what is the meaning of this passage, what is the function of this passage. All of that is applied no matter what century it was written in. And so we enjoy playing standard repertoire and music by living composers because it's music. And I think it keeps us fresh to commingle programs that mingle, a Tower with a Beethoven, a Shostakovich with a, uh, Gerald Cohen. It's fresh for the performer. It's fresh for the listener as well.
It would be for me. I'm a huge fan of chamber. I've played enough solo stuff, and I've never been very good at it. I get away with it, but I'm not that good at it. But the best playing I've ever done has been in a chamber setting, when I can really feed off of other players, and
Right.
I absolutely love it. And I have to work harder. It's not easier; it's harder. So for me,
Maybe, yeah, and it requires multiple skills. That the more folks you add into the pot, the level of listening, the layers to the cake, are the ante is upped. But then, as you just wisely said, there is a symbiotic relationship, ideally, if you as collaborators, and I include the composer as a collaborator, if you can find common language and inspire one another, then you move to a whole new dimension together.
right? Yeah, this level of conversation between the instruments, to
Right.
me, I find not only as a player but also as an audience member just absolutely intriguing, and I love it. I very compelling.
I also find, just to continue your thought, I notice when the audience as another dimension is with us, so to speak. I can tell when there's a connectivity. You can feel it in the room.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I kind of grew up in a small town in mid Michigan, and we were largely kind of a classical music desert here. And other than the local college had a world class a cappella choir, so I did get a chance to listen to that. So, but no orchestra, no string programs of any kind in the area when I was. Now that's not the case today, but that was the case back when the dinosaurs roamed, and so I came to orchestral music and chamber music and all of that late in life for me, and I just was hooked. I mean, I was immediately just like, got to do this, got to be there. This is where the for me this is where the action is. there's an intimacy there that I just don't think you can get. You can't get it in an orchestra. An orchestra's big and it has these big, powerful things. I say you can't. That's not true, but I mean
It's different. They're
it's
different
right.
animals, if you will. And I'm a huge orchestral lover. I just love a big Mahler juicy symphony, love it. Brahms symphony. I love it.
Well, it's not that I dislike it. I just find that there's something about attending a chamber music concert or being involved in chamber as a player that I just find that it's sort of like one and two. My top tier would be the chamber music, and second would be orchestral. And
I think that people that really love chamber music, that's like a certain niche. And I've also come across another niche that are just like enormous opera lovers. There's that same like passionate draw towards the medium, and that's wonderful.
I totally agree. I think that what happens too seldom, but when people who are unfamiliar get a chance to attend a live performance, particularly an orchestra, which can be pretty majestic, and an
Yes.
opera, which is also majestic in its own way, because it's so people don't realize what opera is many times, and so they don't fully understand the immersion, and you get there, and so. The story that I've told many times is taking my son to an opera for the first time when he was 13, and he fell in love.
Ah,
And he's
that's
kind of a
great.
guy's guy, a football
Yeah.
player and works on trucks, and
Yeah.
but he loved opera.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's so I think that being there, I think once you get there, you go, oh, that's what this is about. You
Yeah,
know,
there's nothing like a live performance.
exactly. So, um, if we can get into a little bit of some of the pieces that you guys have played, and what's it like to playing for our lives by Gerald Cohen, for example.
Well, it's first of all very rewarding to be able to sit and converse with the composer, in that case,
Uh-huh.
Gerald Cohen. We don't have that luxury with Mozart and Beethoven.
Right.
And that the interactive process of talking with and working together to bring about a new piece with a living composer is extremely rewarding. It's inspiring, particularly when the composer has very clear ideas and is articulate and can convey um, their vision. And we get the opportunity for trials. What about this way? What about that way? Shorter, longer? That back and forth to bring it to life, whether it's Gerald Cohen or any other living composer, is an extremely rewarding process. So the process is what really um, we enjoy, and that's what differentiates preparing for a new piece that's versus an old standard.
Now, when you're doing the old standards, are you influenced by those who have come before you, or you try to put that aside, so stay away from recordings and things like that?
Um, I go both directions. I think as I'm getting older, I'm less influenced by recordings. Initially, I have personally jumped to the world of an iPad, which then means I'm always choosing to play off a score, which is the ideal. So I'm informed about everybody's part simultaneously in real time. And I'm finding that information to be my primary source of info and information and inspiration. Maybe after I've had a couple stabs at it with the group and I hear it, then I might allow myself to explore and listen to other recordings that have come before. I'm also now fairly familiar with, the groups that have a large body of recordings available. And, I know their tendencies as groups. I know that different eras, for example, had different styles. Um, just like in fashion, if you're looking at a picture of Goldie Hawn in the 1960s, the look, right? You know the look, the
Yeah.
hair, the dress. Okay, so it's a little similar. I know if I'm listening to a 1940s Budapest recording or a 1980s Tokyo Quartet recording, kind of know their style because I've been steeped in their. I felt, but it's like a child being spoon fed that meal. So, so I guess that's a long-winded answer to say more recently, I defer more to the score and my colleagues and the immediate interaction before getting any preconceived notions from recordings of other groups.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me all the way around. Excuse me. So now, you guys, you mentioned you have about 40 recordings out at the moment, commercially
Yeah,
available.
you can check my math. They're all up on our CassattQuartet.com with more on the way.
With now this year, we got more stuff coming this year.
Stuff is coming. Yeah, the Godfrey three quintets is I think you particularly as a guitarist will fall in love with the Cassatt Quartet with Elliot Fisk.
Yeah, now is that the one that you're touring Italy with?
We were supposed to. It got delayed, and so that was on the
Oh,
horizon for next month, and then it got delayed. Um, Something to do with bureaucracy in Italy. Say no more.
yeah, pretty much covers it, doesn't it? Guess we all have to deal with that. So now, a so what's on the program this year? What are you guys programming this year?
Currently, we have Mozart Hunt. We have Shostakovich 14, which is not often played and phenomenal, by the way.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
I'm
what a
not familiar with that
piece.
one. I'll have to go nosing around, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that is um, remarkably well written, humorous, um, and and very dark and written. I think right at the end of his life, he wrote
Oh,
15 quartets. Um, Actually, I read a very funny story about Shostakovich's 14th quartet. He had been ill for a while at that time, and he had been on strict orders for bed rest and no fun, no liveliness, and one of his he hadn't written in quite some time, and his one of his friends had um, been concerned. He hadn't returned any letters and hadn't heard from him. So he called in to check on him, and I'm worried about you. And, Shostakovich said, yeah, can you believe it? I can't do anything. They won't let me do anything. I have to, no smoking, no drinking, watch my diet and sleep and no visitors, et cetera, et cetera. And the man, and I can't recall his name, pulls out a bottle of vodka and they sit down and have a glass together. And after that, he starts the 14th string quartet. It's brilliant. It was dedicated to the cellist of the Beethoven quartet with whom Shostakovich collaborated forever on the majority of his string quartets. They premiered and worked with him, and the cellist was dedicated to him. Sharinsky was the cellist.
I'm not
So
as familiar with Shostakovich's stuff as I would like to be, but every time I hear something, I like it. It was, it's just one of those. Dvorak is like that for me as well. It's just like,
yeah,
it's like I've never heard that song, and I know I like it, and you look and go, okay, it's Shostakovich or Dvorak. It's like, it's
right.
just like every, yeah,
I
I love
I
it. Yeah.
highly, highly recommend to the listeners to go explore the 14th Quartet by Dmitri Shostakovich. It's Our quartet has just really enjoyed discovering it, performing it, and we're carrying it through into next season. So that's another one that I am in love with right now. What else? Jesse Montgomery's Strum is going to be program soon. We're going to do some middle Beethoven next year. As I mentioned, the premiere of Joan Tower's sixth quartet will be fall 2025 in celebration of the Cassatt Quartet's 40th anniversary, and
Wow.
a lot more down the pike.
So how many concerts do you do in a year?
Oh gosh.
Approximately.
Oh, probably about 45 or 50.
That's a pretty hefty amount. That's
Plus
a lot of.
educational programs, plus, and that includes touring, that includes community oriented programs where folks that might not be able to get out to attend,
Sure.
a Saturday 8 o'clock, or drive on a Sunday afternoon, or not be able to have the means for a $40 ticket, which is kind of the going rate lately.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, yeah, we are longstanding recipients from the New York State Council on the Arts to go into the community
I think
with
it's wonderful.
throughout New York. Yeah,
I think that's
and
absolutely wonderful.
yeah, it's very rewarding because it's usually very intimate settings, um, wherever people are in their daily lives, whether it be in work, whether it be in school. Um, it's some really rewarding concertizing, actually.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
So,
thanks.
there was one other I was going to ask, and I forgot what I was going to ask. A better person would have this stuff nailed down. Oh, I know. Um, uh, how did COVID disrupt? How disruptive was that in terms of what you were? And is there a before COVID, after COVID cassette?
Yes, there is a before and after COVID for everybody, whether
Sure.
you're Cassatt Quartet or any other industry, any other business. Everyone is still climbing out from COVID. Unfortunately, it was a blow on many levels. And during COVID, I think we were in an exceptionally unique situation. I say that because I live in Westchester County,
Okay.
New York, and I've been in my community living here for 24 years and have had a wonderful chance to, meet folks that live here. And I knew and know um, a gal around the corner who lives in a community that is historic. And part of that historic grounds is a large meeting hall that happens to have jaw-dropping acoustics.
Really?
And right, this was all just kismet. And so we got special permission through my relationship, my friendship with a neighbor, just being a neighbor and neighborly and shared interest in chamber music. We got special permission as a string quartet to use without charge a couple of local places, like I described, that were enormous and had the opportunity to go in alone and rehearse. We, sat 6 feet apart, etc. We did everything that everybody did, and it enabled us to continue rehearsing during the thick of COVID,
Wow.
which for me personally was just mental health. You know,
Sure, I absolutely know.
to be able to, have that, and in addition to that, we had been we received and still receive a grant from the Ray Charitable Trust, which has interest in projects not only in New York State, but Virginia and Texas. And again, I'm from Texas, and I had written this grant for many years, primarily for the Cassatt in the Basin in music education program that I created um, in 2005. And it brings the Cassatt Quartet down to Texas. So they had given the grant the year before COVID. And there we were holding the lump of cash. And then everything got shut and all the schools were shut. And we weren't going on airplanes and all that business. And the grantees said, guys, we don't have a mechanism to take back the money. Therefore, you can take the money and use it as you wish, which was
Wow.
very unique scenario.
Very generous, yes.
Very, yeah, they just didn't have a way to, that this had never, like everything else with COVID, nothing, there was no precedent exactly.
Right.
So we used the funding along with the access to a big hall with beautiful acoustics to um, rehearse, pursue projects online, create music videos online, and had the funds to be able to hire the expertise and shifted to an online platform like everybody else had to do. So our COVID experience during COVID, I think, was very unique, where all the other halls were blacked out and nobody could go or attend. Everything moved to Zoom or whatever.
Right.
We were able to keep going, but we pivoted. We really had to, we did.
Sure. So you sort of had, we all had to make adjustments. So,
We had to make adjustments, but what we did not do were things like record ourselves individually in our house
oh,
and then
sure.
and merge them. We tried it actually, and we failed miserably. We could not even do that with a Bach 4-part harmonized chorale. We tried the simplest of simple. By the time you layered in even the tuning, I'll get like the basic before you even started putting one track down, the tuning. So the cellist recorded first, and she gave her A to, and then each person would tune at home that from her original A. By the time you would get 4 voices recorded and layered, and you'd come to a chord that had any open strings, it was out of tune because the level of precision and adjustment in the moment live is so nuanced that
Yeah.
it makes or breaks how you taper one note,
Sure.
how you breathe between a phrase and end and continue. A lot of that is, visual radar. it, it was really quite deflating. So we abandoned that within about 4 weeks. We abandoned that approach. And that's when we moved into a real hall and, 6, 8 feet apart, the whole business that everybody else did,
Right.
but in the same room
Now, are you
together.
carrying any of that forward? So you're doing any of that type of work that you wouldn't have done 6 or 7 years ago?
We have continued the recordings, as I mentioned. We have moved all into back into live performances completely. In fact, we were some of the first to say yes to chamber series that wanted to try something such as the whole Cassatt Quartet shows up, and so every subscriber gets to view it live streamed.
Gotcha.
That was like baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Then came limited audience in person plus live stream. And some of that residue is still alive. Live streaming now is part of the package often as
Yes.
an option,
Right.
as a, you know,
So that makes a great deal of sense. So,
yeah.
Jennifer, believe it or not, we are totally out of time. And I am so grateful that you took some time to hang out with me. I really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Great deal. So, but between now and then, I'm going to say goodbye.
Take care. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
I want to thank Jennifer for taking time from her busy schedule to come on the show. I want to thank you too. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Did you know that I publish a weekly blog as an extension of the podcast? Just go to www.rogerhumphrey.com. There's a blog tab at the top of the page, and you can get updates on all of my guests. You don't have to subscribe, but if you do, it will help me convince the internet gremlins that I actually have friends. Besides, you don't want to miss out now, do you? Thanks again for listening. Please come back for more episodes of Creative Conversations with Roger Humphrey.